Bosses are fed up with remote work for four main reasons. Some of them are undeniable. The debate on whether or not remote work works and working from home is a competent thing, and or if employees should return to the office, is an ongoing debate that's been getting pretty heated in recent times, and it seems to only be heating up. This article goes over supposedly four reasons why working from home doesn't work. I think it's mostly opinion, but we'll jump into it and kind of see what's being said. I don't think it's a moral issue like Elon Musk made it out to be. I think that it's something that could work, but supposedly there's more and more data coming out that shows that it doesn't. But I haven't seen that data. People just are claiming there is data, so we'll see if this article actually presents any data for that. But let's go ahead and jump in. This article from Fortune: the golden age of remote work seems to be ending. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that even tech firms, the first industry that told employees they could work from home forever just a few years ago, are getting engineers and project managers back in the office. The economic blogger Kevin Drum, formerly of Mother Jones, has taken note of the increasing anti-remote literature and is making a bold prediction about the future of work. There is none. It's not going to look much different than it's ever looked. That's because the remote work revolution just isn't going to materialize. Companies that put up with remote work for a long time are finally getting sick and tired of it. Drum wrote on Sunday, the reason for that is fairly straightforward. Working from outside the office simply isn't as productive as office work, no matter what remote workers say. Too much evidence has piled up to credibly deny this any longer. This is the part where I do see a lot of people saying this, that it's not as effective as working in the office, and the only time that I've ever seen it said often relates to teamwork and working with the team. And so I do think, like any business model, like any structure, there's been offices that I've worked with and there's offices that I've heard people work with that don't have any real structure in the office. Like there's no plan to bring the team in together on things and bring unity and work together. Like, typically like an office, you have to call a meeting, you have to get the team in the same room. Everybody needs to get the information. Everybody needs to know the direction. Everybody needs to know what the goal is, and then they can work together in cohesiveness. And so whether you're working remotely or you're working in an office space, that uncohesion and that inability to work as a team could affect, could be total chaos, no matter which place you're working in. Like it doesn't matter if you're working from home or working in an office, you still could experience total chaos. So I don't know if that's what they're pointing towards, but it just seems to me like it's when you say it's not as productive as office work, in what way do you mean productive? Like what is it that's not getting done? Versus if everyone was in the office, what would be getting done? And that's not getting done when everyone's working from home. And so that's what it's been hard to pin down. He pointed to return to office pushes at tech companies where most jobs could be remote, particularly Salesforce, Google, and Meta. Then he highlighted four key pieces of evidence. Although asterisks abounded, still, Drum is worth listening to on this matter, along with figures like Brad DeLong and Tanishi Coates. He thrived in the Wild West days of blogging and at Mother Jones, and independently he displayed an aptitude for paying attention to what the data says about major economic subjects, cutting out the noise. Okay, I'm glad that that's your opinion of the guy. For this part, Drum expects most of the private sector to go back to work in the physical sense. There was remote work before the pandemic, and there will be a little more after the pandemic, he wrote, but it's going to be measured in a small handful of percentage points, not as a revolution in work. Drum, who since leaving Mother Jones in 2021 has been blogging semi-daily from his home in Orange County, California, did not respond to Fortune's request for comment. So he's working from home. That's interesting. So most remote workers insist they won't be going back to their sad desk lunches, and many companies are still promising they won't take attendance ever again, but maybe they should listen to Drum's warning. Here's why the tide is turning against remote work, rightly or wrongly. Number one, remote work is bad for new hires and junior employees. This one is not nearly as controversial as it sounds, especially when you're new on the job. Being physically present can be an enormous leg up. Even the supposedly anti-office Gen Z workers acknowledge the overwhelming truth of this. This one I can see for onboarding, like but the thing is that's not a permanent issue. For instance, where's the data to support that if you onboard a new employee? Because here's the deal. Like, I've worked in sales positions before that were remote, and when I onboarded, like when I was literally the new employee and I was being onboarded into the company, for the first couple weeks, for the first month, they had me in the office. They would have me come to the office every day, 8 to 5. And I would be in the office with another salesperson and with the manager, and I would be shadowing. I would be working alongside someone as I was being trained. We would go to meetings together, yada yada yada. Most of the time during those days, our meetings were in person. So like if there was a staff meeting or a team meeting, even though you were remote, you would come to the office and everyone would meet together. So those are these kind of things that you would do to onboard. So I don't see how, is it a permanent issue? That's what I want to know. We know empirically that the new Salesforce employees do better if they're in the office, meeting people, being onboarded, being trained. CEO Mark Benioff said in March, if they are at home and not going through that process, we don't think they're as successful. We don't think they're as successful. Does he have data to support that comment? I mean, once again, that's not a permanent issue. I think if you're going to have a business and you're going to offer working from home, you need to structure your business model. You need to structure how your organization runs in order to succeed in that model. So if you just said everyone work from home with nary a plan, there was no plan to make sure that you could still engage and be productive, you can't then blame, working from home doesn't work. Well, you never even really structured your business for it to work. You just don't want to do that. You want everyone to just come back in. Which I'm not saying it's a wrong thing. I'm not saying it's bad, but it will destroy morale if you keep changing your mind back and forth. And so that's the only point I'm trying to make there. But it says, so, that could also hurt companies. A recent Paychex survey found that 80% of new hires will quit a job if they had a poor onboarding experience, which is much more likely to be the case if they're welcomed aboard from a distance. Is that true, though? Once again, like I've never had a poor onboarding experience at remote jobs that I was working in the past. When the onboarding experience was planned out and ironed out. In fact, I had looked forward to entering into not being the trainee anymore and going into the regular role, because then at that point I was able to engage in the benefits of being a remote worker, and everything was great. So I don't know if that, I don't know if I can jump on board with that one. Let's see what number 2 is. Workers admit that remote work sometimes causes more problems than in-person work. I don't know what that means. When executed incorrectly, hybrid work plans can create discordant, unproductive teamwork. That's especially true when teams don't make an effort to align their in-office days. Okay, well, yeah, that's literally what I was just saying. Also, remote work has its fair share of downsides. So that's what I was saying when I said, you have to structure your business model. That's especially true when teams don't make an effort to align their in-office days. Well, that sounds like a problem with management. If your manager, your team leader isn't ensuring that the team is being cohesive in the sense of like, hey, you guys just can't sporadically come into the office and not work together. We need to make a plan. Hey, we're all in the office on this day. We're all meeting on this day. No excuses. Show up so we can get aligned and get cohesive, and then you can go about your week however you want to do it, as long as your work is being done. I mean, you got to take the reins of your company. You have to take the reins of your organization. Also, remote work has its fair share of downside. Drum linked back to McKinsey research he had highlighted in his midterm report on remote work from December, which found that remote workers are much more likely to report mental and physical health issues in hostile work environments. That's not the worst of it. 60% of bosses recently admitted that if they had to make job cuts, they'd come for their remote workers first. The one thing that I'm not seeing here is the legitimate fact that the remote workers are not doing their tasks. That's the one thing I'm not seeing. Is that happening? Is the work legitimately not getting done? I think most of the time, to me, and this is just my opinion, and I could be very, very wrong, but most of the time to me, it just sounds like that the people that complain about this are just upset at the fact that someone could be in their pajamas or someone could get their work done early and then sit and go do whatever else they want to do. And I think it just kind of stretches back to how you employ your staff. I've had talked before about how the company that I'm with, we have a very small team. So I can't talk to these companies that are, I can't speak on these companies that are employing 100 plus employees, because our team is like 7 staff members. Sometimes it's 6 staff members. It just depends on what we're hiring for and the projects we're doing. And, our work is very loose. We're all in the office on the same days to make sure we could meet. And then we go home and do our work from home or a hybrid model, or come into the office as needed. We feel cohesion. We feel like we're on the same page because we're making an effort to be in the office at the same time to make sure we can get cohesion. And then we work together. If I need to meet with a staff member and that meeting needs to be in person, we will plan that accordingly. But once again, it's a very small company, so we feel like we're working in the same way. And as long as the project's getting done, I talked with upper leadership and told them as long as our work is getting done and the project's getting done, we're not paying for hours, we're paying for projects. That's what we're paying for. So I don't care what you do, as long as your work is getting done and everything's going great. As long as it feels like we're all working in the same direction, it doesn't bother me if you leave your work to go pick your kids up from school. I don't care. Just get the work done. Make sure it's done. And I don't care what you do with the rest of your life. So I don't understand this. That's where I'm having the hard time kind of seeing. Here we go. Yeah, because here's number 3. Remote workers put in 3.5 hours less per week compared to in-person workers. But once again, is it because the work that you're having them do how about you assign them more responsibilities to make up for that 3.5 hours? That's what I'm wondering. How does that play out? That's the only question I have. I can be convinced either way, because the way I look at it too is I don't know if it's necessarily right. When you've prior to the pandemic, you agreed in a contractual agreement to work at a company, and part of that agreement was you were going to be in the office working. So to then get upset and mad at a company because you're saying, well, you told me to be in the office, you said I can go home because of a pandemic, and now I'm mad at you because you expect me to come back. I don't know if I can necessarily agree with that, to be honest. Please don't shout me down, because I'm like, okay, well, you agreed to show up to the office originally. So, you can't get mad at them when they say, okay, it's time to come back now. However, there are a lot of companies now that are hiring with the promissory note of, hey, this is going to be remote. Hey, this is going to be a hybrid model. Hey, this is how we're going to do this from now on. And to be consistently changing that because they're not happy with certain things, that's where I feel like you have a right to be frustrated, because it said, hey, I agreed on this contractual agreement to do this work this way, and now you're changing it because you're saying I'm not productive, but you're not able to show me how I'm not productive. I think what we're seeing is really a struggle, and it's a wrestling match between an ever-changing work environment and the reluctancy of leadership to adapt to the change, and adopt new guidelines to ensure productivity. Rather than change their ways, they want the employees to change their ways. But I don't know. That's just my personal opinion. I'm curious to see what you guys think. I think there was 4, so work goes. So it says, so it says the National Bureau of Economic Research in January found that remote workers worldwide save 72 minutes a day on average just from avoiding their commute. And that on average of that time saved, 40% goes to extra work. So that's worldwide, right? Yeah, worldwide. They save 72 minutes a day on average from avoiding their commute. And that on average of that time saved, 40% goes to extra work. Drum is unconvinced that the effects in America, and so is the federal government's own data set, are unconvinced about the effects in America. For his part, Drum sees a 3.5-hour decline in hours worked, and he got the figure from an October 2022 report by Liberty Street Economics, an arm of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Researchers David Dam, made calculations based off the American Time Use Survey, a nationally representative survey by the Bureau of Labor Statistics that measures both the amount of time people spend on various activities and where the activities occur. In a chart, they found that remote workers decreased time spent working and instead increased their time spent on leisure and sleeping. The chart clearly showed an increase roughly between 3 and 3 and hours in time spent on things that are not work. Okay, that was a weird sentence. Once again, though, is the work you're assigning just doesn't require that much time, and maybe there was a lot of time spent wasting time. I don't know. It's a rough idea. I think it just comes down to, what the company is assigning the employees. Number 4, productivity plummets on days when everyone is working remotely. Anecdotally. So they even admit this is an anecdote. In March, Drum wrote a post highlighting what the CEO of an HR tech firm told the Wall Street Journal. On days his team is working remotely, new subscriber counts plummet 30%. But that's just one anecdote. Even Drum himself says the stat is amazing if the CEO isn't exaggerating. Yeah, which, very likely could be. I just think it's a struggle. I think it's a struggle, and it's a wrestling match. I mean, I constantly hear there's articles coming out every day that says data shows that remote work is more productive, and then there's the other ones like this, which says data shows that remote work isn't more productive. And so I don't know if this necessarily made me change my mind. Admittedly, I'm a little biased because if I had a choice, I would work remotely. I enjoy being at home. I enjoy being on my own. I enjoy being able to work, but I actually, the organization I'm with now, we met with leadership and we decided that we were okay with the hybrid model, and the hybrid model is working just fine. And there's no one's upset about it. Everyone's happy. And what's great is our team is happy. And the thing that I've found, now this is anecdotally as well, our team goes the extra mile every single time. And I think that's because they feel respected. I think it's because they know there's no pressure. There's trust. We know they're getting the work done. We don't get on their case when they have to leave early or when they have to do certain things, because it's been communicated. This is a project-based pay, not a hour-based pay. And we've gone the extra mile every single time. Whenever there's a project that's up for grabs, whenever there's an extra thing we got to do, we have volunteers. Every time the staff steps up and says, we'll do it, and we all come together and work together. My experience anecdotally, once again, has been very, very different, and I find it very hard to believe. I wonder if you just started treating people with respect and respecting the fact that they're humans and they have needs, and they have things they need to get done in their life, and that you can trust them and they're adults, that they don't want to just show up to work and get a paycheck, but they actually want to do good work. I just wonder if your experience would be much different. But I don't know. I don't know if that scales. Like I said, we have a staff of a very, very small staff. I don't know if it scales to 100 plus employees. So what are your guys' thoughts in the comment section below? Let me know if you think that these reasons were reason enough to change your mind, or to say, hey, remote work is bad. Do you think remote work is bad, or do you think it's a good thing? I'm really interested to know. I constantly I'm hearing really interesting comments being made in regards to this, and people have very different opinions on it. It really is a heated debate. So I hope you guys liked the video. Please like, share, subscribe, all those good things, and I will catch you guys in the next one.